at the training centre, I had a really big opportunity to be an influence.
Yeah.
And for me, I tried to use that to bring up mental health because that was, a big thing on my, big thing for me in my life, and something that I wanted to, pass on and support people. And so until, recently we've had a conversation that, like you took away a whole lot from that. And so, I think that's the time when I've had.
Yeah.
And for me, like that's a win. Like one person has come back and said, hey, that really stuck out for me, and I've taken that on. So that's probably my biggest influence that I've tried to have and felt like I've had in the job when I was there.
And where did that start for you when you realized, oh, wow. Like if we were to turn that into like a story arc almost, where, there's a start, a challenge and a sort of outcome or whatever. Could you rewind that to a starting point?
I think just conversations like I had with mates on my crew.
Yeah.
There was conversations just like this around the smoker table with one colleague in particular. Like we were pretty open. I worked very closely with them at the training centre and quite open, not just hey, how are you, but hey, how are you? I think that was kind of the origin of that. And I was like, well, hey, we have an awesome opportunity here to, spark these conversations with, I was working in the volunteer space. So, with hundreds of volunteers around the entire country. So why not use this as an opportunity?
Yeah.
Make that our little thing that, when people come on our courses, that it's, we're not confrontational about it at all, but how's your mental health? Have you thought about it? This is where you can get some help if you want. At the end of the day, you can ring me if it gets to that. So
it's awesome. I love it.
And then like where that kind of came to like a big full circle, I guess, is that I gave. So I did that presentation 50 or 60 times probably.
Yeah.
But I gave that presentation to the chief executive and the whole executive team one day when they came to the training centre.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, this is what we do. And whether it went any further than that, I don't know. But at least it was, hey, this is what we try.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of the full circle for that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Get it right to the top.
Certainly. And that's an awesome example of, I don't know, is that bottom-up leadership or, like starting influencing where you can, and then all of a sudden you're dealing with the national leaders of the organization. Like that's a huge example of influence, like I guess when you're thinking about circle of influence, circle of concern, you just started with the little, like I guess you look at that as a whole problem, you'd be like, oh man, the culture is so set in its way here. Mental health is frowned upon. That is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. Then all of a sudden you just started working on what was in your circle of influence, and boom, it just expanded out into a presentation to the NHQ guys. That's awesome. That's an awesome story.